Hello, hello. Welcome to Behind the Zines. Today I'm taking you behind the scenes of the Burndy zine. This is a zine I created for my friend Megan's album launch. And it's a really cool bookbinding format called a do, which is basically, it's two books or like two sections in one, but they share a central cover or board. And so what ends up happening is you read each section in a different orientation rather than like flipping it over. And so in this case, it worked really well because we divided it between side A lyrics and then side B lyrics. So this is a cool format if you wanted to tell a story from like two different characters' viewpoints. You could have character A on one side, character B on another. It also works if you maybe had like two different languages. It's just like a fun format. So this is a zine, obviously, and it's got two folios that face opposite directions, but you can do this with a paperback book. You can do this with a hardcover book. It's pretty flexible. So let's take a look at how it's made. The covers of the zine started with using leftover record album sleeves from Megan's record. And I just cut them down to, I cut off the sides to 12 inches wide, and then I cut off the top and bottom, so it was 11 inches tall. So I ended up with two pieces of cardstock. So this is cover A, side A, and this is side B. And then I scored them using this handy dandy tool. It's called a Score-It-All. Well, the base and the tool are a system called the Score-It-All. And I use this to score the lines, the fold lines for the covers. So I lined it up at 4 inches because the finished zine is 4 inches by 10 inches. There's one, and then I line it up again. So I lined up the first score line at the 4 inches, and so the second score line will basically be at 8 inches. So that's the score of the covers. Then the inside are these gold vellum sheets. These are 7.5 inches by 11 inches tall. And since we were using upcycled record covers, I kind of wanted to like add that constraint to the rest of the project and only use items that I already had on hand, and I had this gold paper on hand. So then these are just simply folded in half folios. And now usually when I'm folding paper, I'll use a bone folder or like a Teflon folder like this. But vellum papers tend to be a little brittle. And so if you do too hard of a crease, they start to kind of lose their structural integrity and they can tear and crack. So these I only do with my fingers. I just do a finger fold. And then we'll get back our scored side B. And then I do fold this one over and score it. So I'm gonna use my Teflon. These are called bone folders. This isn't made out of bone, it's made out of Teflon, which I prefer to the bone folders, but they all work the same. They just give you like a really good crease. So I'm gonna bone fold that, and then I'm gonna staple it. So this is a Bostitch like booklet stapler. You can see that it's got like this kind of cradle almost. It's so, so handy. So we'll just take our lyrics, kind of line them up there in the valley, flip it over. Do one on the side, I kind of roughly eyeball it for the middle. And then one more. So that's our side B. And then another step, because if you remember, I've got this cord that ties it together so that it stays shut. And so the cord gets threaded through both covers. That's a little hard to understand right now. When you're looking at it in pieces, it'll make more sense in a little bit. But before I start folding and putting it together, I have to punch the holes for the cord. So I just measure. This is 11 inches tall. This is a Japanese screw punch. The benefit of this is that unlike with like a hand punch, you've got the constraint of like how deep the punch can go, how deep the throat is. Whereas this, you have no constraint. You can punch wherever you want. So in this case, we can punch in the middle of the card. So I'm gonna do it right along the edge of the score. I'm gonna go 5.5. And so then there's my cord punch. And then this is where we marry it with side A, right? So now we have side A and side B, and we have to we actually have to connect them together to make the book. And for that, I use, get this out of the way. I use this tape, this double-sided 3M tape. It's archival, it's super sticky, and so it peels off. This side is sticky, and this side has a protective, I don't know what you'd call it, sheet, film, I guess, on it. And so I go like this, and I measure roughly the length of the book. I put that along the edge, smooth that out, and then I peel up the film. And then this is the side B. We just kind of line those up, make sure they're flush at the bottom, make sure they're flush at the sides. And I combine them together. I don't really have to worry about this part because I'm gonna, this part's like open, but I'm gonna bind it with some bookbinding tape. This edge here sometimes doesn't match up perfectly, and that's okay. I just, if that happens, or if I just want a super clean edge, I take it over to, I have a tabletop like guillotine cutter that I'll trim this off. I already have one trimmed. This is like a cooking show. I have already prepared pieces waiting in the wings. So this one's been trimmed. See, so it's like a perfect edge there. And so next, the next step is to thread the cord. So the reason we do this now is so it's hidden. We thread it through, and then we'll fold the covers over, and then it's just this hidden inner cord. So pull that through on that side. On that side. And then this is another example where I'm not going to use a bone folder because the record sleeve tends to crack, so I just kind of want to finger fold it again. right? And then kind of want to snug up the cord. And so now you can see how that hidden cord works. You can also start to see how it cracks a little bit on the edge, but that's fine. It's a zine, it's not gonna be perfect. And now I'm gonna put the bookbinding tape on. I use these, they're like tiny little sandbags. They're like weighted bags, and they're incredibly helpful. So for this, I just measure. I know that it's roughly 5/8 of an inch, so 0.625. So I'm gonna measure and make 3 tick marks. And I go from the edge of the spine. In this case, it's not lining up exactly. So if I want to be really nitpicky, I would do this. I would take a utility knife and I just sort of kind of eyeball roughly slice that off. Again, that spine edge doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to cover that up with the book repair tape. So, and now you can see that's way better now. Let's go back to our little weights. That's better. Five-eighths of an inch. So, okay. So now we know where we're putting our tape. It's called Book Guard cloth book repair tape. This is 1.5 inches. It's super sticky. So just be careful because it can sort of like stick back on itself, and it's really hard to like get apart. So I just usually kind of lightly tack it down to the work surface. And then I use a X-Acto knife or a utility knife to cut that edge off. And then I line it up with my tick marks. I kind of try to also like pull it straight so that I get a straight edge. And then I smooth it out. Sometimes it wrinkles in a couple different spots, but it's really easy to just smooth out. Put our weights down again. Now we're on the back side. You can see that like the leather cord shifted this way, so we kind of just have to pull it back, pull it tight. And I'm just gonna kind of lightly fold this over the spine. You don't want to pull it tight because you want to give it the room on the spine that it needs to open and close. And then you just smooth that out again. And then I run my finger along the edge so that it catches all those interior pages. And there you go, side B, side A. This is leather cord that I had on hand from, I don't know, a past project, but it's a little tricky to tie. And then I just cinch it up. And then on so right now this is 11 inches wide, and the final piece is 10 inches. So I cut 1/2 inch off the top and 1/2 inch off the bottom off camera on the guillotine cutter. And then the final piece is a sticker which goes on the back, and it says, "Go out and start your own weird band. Don't wait." And so that's kind of like a little Easter egg that goes on the back. So here's, again, our trimmed version for reference. Side A, side B, do-za-do binding, Burndy. If you have any questions, put them in the comments of the post and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.